We're going to talk about the Gen Z protests, which aren't necessarily led by the Gen Z. Gen Z protests in Mexico demand justice for murdered mayor. So, as you guys might know, we are big fans of the Morena Party and Claudia Sheinbaum, who is an incredibly popular leader in Mexico, like actually unimaginably popular. And yet, for some reason, even though she has like 80% approval, at a time when the Trump administration is actively trying to present an argument as to why they must militarily dominate South America and North America, every country beyond the southern border of the United States of America, right? Interestingly enough, Mexico is the next country that apparently is seemingly building a real movement, a real angered response against Claudia Sheinbaum, who is unimaginably popular. Now, there is also another anti-cartel mayor that was very popular in Mexico who got assassinated by the cartel. This created real anger and real resentment. What proof do you have that this is a CIA operation? I'm going to get to it. First of all, it's purely speculative. The reason why I'm saying that it's potentially a CIA-backed or CIA-pushed movement is because while the anger, it has the workings of a color revolution for sure. And it didn't really work anyway, but it's not good that they were able to reach a boiling point here in Mexican politics that they could actually bring together this many people at all, or any people at all. It aligns perfectly with America's argument, with the American State Department's argument in Latin American countries. The argument that every single one of these Latin American countries are narco trafficking hubs, and they are narco states that actually play ball with cartels. Claudia Sheinbaum is overwhelmingly popular in Mexico. It is not like any of these other tension points that have bubbled up all around the country. Things that we saw in Indonesia. Like the Gen Z uprising thing has been presented all around the world, right? There has been a lot of discontent. There's been a lot of discontent, especially amongst the youth in many other countries around the world. This one in particular is real anger that boiled up, a real anger that reached a boiling point due to an anti-cartel mayor being assassinated by the cartel. This is real, right? There was real resentment and real anger towards this. And then it very quickly was seized by the neoliberal former old guard of Mexican politics who have despised Morena, who despised AMLO, and certainly despise Claudia Sheinbaum. And this is a great example of this. Former Mexican President Vicente Fox, during the recent Gen Z protests, appeared wearing a strawman hat pirate t-shirt. It's over. Totally fucking co-opted the strawman pirate shit, okay? Just because there's real discontent in the country, bro, what you're saying is correct, but you don't know what you're talking about. Wait, I'm confused. How does that work? The cartel issue has not been solved in Mexico. It's the number one problem. Okay, this is true. The cartel issue is the number one problem in Mexican politics that just like still dominates the lives of regular, everyday Mexican people. I'm sorry, but the idea that this is CIA or US is very silly. The Mexican authorities are incredibly cooperative with the US intelligence, State Department, and military. This is not that deep. It is members of the marginalized opposition parties trying to use a galvanizing issue to drive a wedge in the otherwise popular governing coalition. I agree with that. But don't you also think that this works so fucking perfectly? So perfectly with the through line, with the argument that the State Department is presenting in all Latin American countries right now. I'm sorry, but it is, I don't disagree with you that there is like real animosity and the former marginalized, the former neoliberal parties are actually trying to use this as an opportunity. They see it as a weakness because it's almost impossible to fucking deal with the cartels. And they see this as a weakness. It's ironically part of the reason why they lost too when they were governing. And they're using this as an opportunity to fucking attack the government, to claw back some kind of power. And yes, they're marginalized. They have marginal representation because people don't vote for them. But this government, our government, the United States government has said that they're going to attack Mexico over and over again. What fucking makes you think, even for a moment, what makes you think that this is not perfectly in line with their goals here? It's the same with Maduro and Machado. Machado gets a fucking Nobel Peace Prize after demanding violent military intervention in Venezuela. This administration, the American administration, very clearly has an ambition to further destabilize Latin American countries. And not only do they want to further destabilize Latin American countries, they want to violently attack Latin American countries. And they will use any kind of marginal reason to justify that advance. This wasn't very successful, but it's just
trying
like
to dismantle
annoying
the
that it's
status
happening
quo,
to begin with.
along with the barriers outside the home of the president. Police used tear gas by the National Palace in Mexico City, and what started as a demonstration against government corruption in a country dominated by drug cartels has become explosive. Thousands gathered across the capital, supposedly organised by Gen Z youth groups, and the finger being pointed at those in charge, blaming the government for general insecurity across the nation.
All we want is justice and zero impunity in this government. We're tired of the government never acting, of power being concentrated across all branches and controlled by the same group.
So far, there's zero evidence for U.S. involvement besides the vague idea that it would be convenient for the U.S. narrative. There are a million more reasons to suggest that it's a failed internal attempt by the dying institutional parties to co-opt popular symptoms to crack down on the approval of the administration. I'm highly skeptical of this being organic. I don't think this is organic. I think the inception point is the initial argument is organic. Considering that it is identical to the argument that we are presenting with Venezuela, I'd be very careful to lean into this without assuming that there's some kind of fuckery going on. Because color revolutions have oftentimes started with real resentment of an unsolved issue. Internal politics leading to potentially even civil war in its most in the worst instances, potentially leading to civil war, oftentimes backed by outside groups that take advantage of that instability to dismantle a somewhat popular leader that isn't in and sometimes unpopular leaders that isn't in the periphery of the West or under the complete control of the Western interests. President Sheinbaum exposed the right-wing operation, 90 million pesos spent in 2 months to inflate tomorrow's protests using Argentinian and Spanish accounts linked to Atlas Network, infamous for targeting sovereign governments in the region on behalf of transnational corporations. This is an inorganic call funded by the international right. The expert explained at the Daily People's Conference. They're real people. Everyone hates her. That's so funny. These guys are so fucking delusional, man. Greg Grandin was on Chapo last week talking about their new Monroe Doctrine, wherein Trump guys have their guys in LA, in Latin America like Milei, and incoming Chile to lock down parts of South America. But for the rest that is facing a real pink tide / light revolution after decades of imperial conquest, they need to be crushed. Yes. Venezuela isn't a narco state? Yes, it's not. I know that. I said that. This is AstroTurf, but likely not by the CIA, is that Gen Z protest is somehow entirely people over 45. It's being AstroTurf by the right-wing parties, and particularly billionaire media mogul Ricardo Salinas Pliego. There was a smaller Gen Z protest plan, but this took over, and the original organizers backed out. Yeah, except those are people who are aligned with the American government and their interests. They are aligned with the interests of capital. That's my point. And they try to do this against an unimaginably popular candidate. But yeah, it's led by Mexican billionaire Ricardo Salinas, who was recently forced to pay billions in taxes and now holds a grudge against the government. And he also owns a large media empire. Part of the fucking reason why AMLO directly went straight to broadcast on YouTube, just like Claudia Sheinbaum is doing, is literally because in many Latin American countries, the media is entirely controlled by billionaires who fucking despise even modest social democratic gains for the overall population.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum unveiled plans to deploy more than 10,000 troops and police to fight organized crime. This weekend, she cast doubt on the protests, suggesting instead they may have been organized by political opponents and promoted by bots on social media. While these have become violent, the online organisation of protests under the banner of having Gen Z support has been loose across the world. It's decentralised from any one route of power and thus difficult to verify those behind it. Here, after a year in charge, the president still has high approval ratings, but the state of security in a country long overrun by cartels is a discontent that has existed here for years. These protests may look different country to country, but this is Mexico's version right now.
Is Claudia playing ball on immigration out of fear of tariffs? Is that the source of the real animosity, like the mayor's is the catalyst? But where does the real animosity stem from? Is Claudia not doing enough against the cartels? I think it's virtually impossible for Mexico to successfully dismantle the cartels. And I don't know how they would ever actually successfully dismantle the cartel power in the country. I think America has done so much to turn Mexico into what it is right now. That it is. I don't know. I don't know if there's any way that you could actually do it. I mean, people have tried. Right off the rip, there's like very few Gen Z people in this supposedly Gen Z protest. I think they're just like trying to bill it as such because they've seen a lot of like organic mobilization that's taken place all around the world that have been billed as Gen Z protests. Look at the Gen Z of Mexico. I guess they're old as fuck.
Can I ask what you think about the nearly 80% approval rate of Sheinbaum?
No. They bought that. They don't. That is not true.
According to El Financiero, it's about 76%.
Yeah, but that is not true. No.
She's like, fake news. Fake news. Fake polls and fake news. Abuela's running around being like, I'm Gen Z.
Bueno, si tiene el 80.
That's awesome. Well, she's definitely Gen Z.